the records are now open. I'm still seeing that really bright energy, okay? And it's actually even brighter now than it was when you and I first connected last week. I'm already sensing some shifts and changes and just within, looking at your energy field. Now, I do see that you're kind of tail end of second wave, okay? So you kind of fall into the more of the indigo category, okay? So you're somebody that you're kind of a rebel, okay? You're here to break down old systems, okay? That's your, I would say, overall mission, but you have, of course, additional missions beyond that. You were somebody that came in that had a certain, I would say more like a spiritual warrior, okay? So that's pretty much, I think, your main essence is that of a spiritual warrior, okay? And it's interesting that you had lives as, in wars in your past lives, okay? And we're going to explore all that. So what I'm seeing as far as your incarnations, I'm seeing, I think we established you came from the Pleiades, and I'm thinking you originated from Maya, okay? Maya is a star in the Pleiades cluster, okay? Not all Pleiadians were tall, blonde Nordics. As a matter of fact, there was quite a bit of variety within the Pleiadian races as far as the human types. They were all pretty much humanoid, but some of the Pleiadians had darker skin and darker hair. Some of them, there was a variety, so most of the Maya Pleiadians were the darker skin, darker hair variety, okay? And but they carried the same Pleiadian light as the Taigetan, Pleiadians that were blonde Nordics, okay? So Maya was more the home of high spiritual knowledge, okay? The beings that came from Maya were those that were predominantly on the spiritual path of some sort. However, with you, I'm seeing that I'm not sure. I think you had your first couple of incarnations on Maya, and I think you always saw Maya as your home, but it was I think you felt like as a soul you needed to expand your soul experiences, because Maya was very like kind of an introverted society, okay? They kind of kept to themselves, and they were mostly scholars, okay? And I think, you were a student, throughout a couple of lifetimes on Maya. And honestly, I think you got kind of bored. I think you were kind of like, okay, I think you went on some trips to gather knowledge in other Pleiadian star systems, but you wanted a little bit more adventure. So I think on this third life, you decided that you incarnated in Maya again, but you decided that you wanted some more adventure. So I think you moved to I think Alcyon. Okay, so Alcyon is one of the two major stars in the Pleiadian system. They were the seat of Pleiadian government. Okay, so a lot of the space explorers were situated in those two star systems. So I think you moved to Alcyon because you just wanted to join the Federation. So you went through the academy, you went through the training, you went through it all. And you started off, I think really basic level. I think you started off, as somebody that was like kind of like, if I had to kind of give a earthly equivalent, it would be like going through the Air Force Academy. So I'm seeing that initially you started off, I think, as a starcraft mechanic, okay, and you didn't stay a mechanic, okay? You rose up the ranks pretty fast, because you were extremely intelligent. Your years in Maya taught you how to study. Okay, so you were really, and then you grasped like even the mechanical aspects of your training really quickly. So you went from being like an enlisted person into, and then you went, I think, for further training into like officer school. Okay, so they were like grooming you to be a leader. Okay, so and at that point, when you were first starting off in the Federation, and this was like the Pleiadian branch of the Federation, you would go on, I think, short expeditions to Sirius or to more of the benevolent star systems. But then I'm seeing that as you went into the officer training and they were training you to be, a leader, started taking more challenging expeditions. Sometimes you would be visiting Andromeda, or you would be visiting Cassiopeia, or you would be visiting, Arcturus or Antares, so these are all stars that, you were, kind of, or constellations that you were visiting. During the time that you were, I think, getting established as an officer, and you had to rise through the ranks. I mean, it wasn't like you became a commander right away, I mean, it was just like here on Earth. You had to kind of build yourself up to certain levels. I'm seeing that you were involved. I think you were away on some trip, but then you received an alert. You were kind of more in the central command. Your ship was, I think, on some expedition, and you received an alert that Pleiades was attacked, okay, and one of the planets and one of the kind of outlier stars in the Pleiades was destroyed, okay, and so you guys had to come back right away. And so what you had to do was reestablish the shielding systems that were, enveloping, these Pleiadian star systems. Because I think for some reason the Draconians from Orion, and these were the ones that were from Orion, not the ones from Draco. I think they attacked the Pleiades, okay, because the Pleiadians, because they were part of the Federation, were helping the freedom fighters in the belt stars of Orion. Pleiadian forces, I think, took out a couple of the reptilian outposts in Orion. So this was kind of like a retaliation. Before that, you weren't really all that involved with the Orion conflict. So you weren't one of the folks that was sent to assist the freedom fighters, at least not at first. But after the planet was destroyed, then it was like they decided they had to pull more troops in, to assist the freedom fighters, okay, because the belt stars were starting to get attacked. So what I'm seeing is that I think initially you were supposed to go to Earth, but you got circumvented and you ended up going to Orion, okay, to assist with these Orion Wars. I know this sounds very Star Wars like, but it is a lot like Star Wars, okay, so
trust me, I've felt like I've related to Star Wars in some way. Like, for example, I felt like to a degree I've done all of that at some point. And I've also probably, more than likely, done something similar to Jedi stuff too, because there's no way that I know so much about spirituality or able to control energy at that level.
yeah, exactly.
Know that I can, but unable to control it because I have yet to teach this body to do the same.
Right, absolutely, yeah. And when you were in the Pleiades, you were, probably most likely at least fifth or sixth dimensional. So you probably had more strands of DNA, okay? So all your abilities were online. When we're here in third dimensional body, our physicality can't really handle those higher level energies or those higher level abilities until we get activated, So you're in the process of activation right now. And actually the cool thing about you having this reading is this reading will activate you. So what I'm seeing as far as Orion is, your ship was reassigned to Orion, and you were on the ground with the freedom fighters of Orion. So you were there fighting alongside them. And
can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I feel like I've dreamt about some of this stuff before, but the one thing that keeps popping up is Orion was similar to that of maybe the Star Wars, the dark planet, or the one planet in Star Wars that kind of looked like a third world country, but wasn't. It was a high-tech third world country almost.
Yeah, that's exactly how Orion was. You're absolutely right on. Yeah. Orion.
With the skies being orange and everything almost from the pollution.
Yeah, it was very much like that. Now, some of the stars were actually a little bit better, so they weren't, because they have, Orion's a huge constellation. They have quite a few stars and quite a few planets, but Mintanka wasn't like that. Some of the other planets in Orion were high technology, low spirituality, and resources were scarce. Okay, so it did look like a third world country in some of those planets, so there was a great diversity of different beings. So like the cantina scene and the very first Star Wars movie, that's a lot like how Orion was. It was very much like that. And you were a Pleiadian soul, and you came from unity consciousness, okay? I mean, you had unity consciousness in Maya and also in Alcyon. So when you came to Orion, it was like a shock. It was like a culture shock. You were just like, what the heck? These people are primitive. Earth, in a lot of ways, is even more primitive than Orion, and that's pretty sad.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's like no wonder they sent like millions of star seeds to Earth, because I mean, before they used to just send like a few ascended masters here and there, like Jesus and Buddha and maybe, Saint Francis and, just some ascended masters, but they needed more help than just a couple of ascended masters. So they sent the whole bulk of us here now. So you and me, we're on this mission together, but boy, is it a tough one. I tell you what.
I agree. I mean, I can't tell you. I just had a conversation with one of my most trusted buddies, and the way he speaks about logic, it's almost like intuition isn't included in there. And I'm like, when you think about logic, intuition should be included in that.
Oh, absolutely.
Logic
Yeah.
requires intuition. Without that, you don't really have logic. And sometimes logic can't be explained. And it got to a point where I couldn't even speak about certain things, because even though I tried to explain spirituality or the spiritual aspect behind what you're capable of doing with the human body, there's really a couple different ways to activate it. One is through eating the right foods. Two is through the mental aspect. And the third one is the physical aspect, which is how it used to be activated here on Earth before so many things started to interfere.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
should say before the Draconians really dug in and interfered on that level.
Oh, yeah, and they're still interfering, but, I don't know if you heard the Procyon video, but there's some groups that are hitting back at the Draconians. Getting back to your story, I'm just seeing that I think you were kind of shocked, but then I think you had to get over it because you had to help these humanoids that were trying to fight for their freedom, and you had to take on a lot of skills really quickly that you didn't have before. So it was like you did, I think, most of your work on the ground. So you had I don't know if they were lightsabers, but you used probably some sort of laser device to fight with. And I'm seeing that you also did some piloting. I think when you see the kind of the episodes of Star Wars where you have these pilots that are in these like fighter craft, I think maybe I can see you flying one of those things, okay? I don't think you flew like the big, motherships, but I could see you on, when you had to, jumping in one of those things and attacking the, reptilian fleets that were coming in, okay? So you had to learn a lot of skills and a lot of martial skills, okay? So it was almost like you were on a crash course, Jedi, training, so So I think that's why that movie, you really resonate with it so much, because it's the story of the Orion Wars, and you were there. You had hand-to-hand combat with some of these reptilians, and you saw them, take out some friends of yours. You saw them, blowing up some of the ships, some of the Pleiadian ships. So you developed this really deep anger. It was just kind of like you were just so angry that, even though, the Pleiadians had very advanced, technology, and they had very advanced starships, that they managed to get back at you the way they did. They blew up one of the planets. It was just like, how in the heck, so these, these reptilians, they weren't to be, you couldn't take them for granted. These were beings that were quite, forceful and strong on their own, so they did a lot of damage. Because you were carrying such deep anger, it was interesting. You ended up going back to the Pleiades, but then I think you had another incarnation, okay, as a Pleiadian, but you chose in that life to take the route of the dark. What you ended up doing was you became what I call a rogue Pleiadian. So you took a very, very dark path, okay? So you ended up joining the Orion space pirates, okay? And they were kind of a mercenary group that just kind of stole from other star systems and then resold, these items on Orion, okay? Because Orion was always desperate for supplies and resources. So I'm seeing you were actually working alongside these Orion beings that you previously hated, that you had such anger towards. And I think because you were higher dimensional even in that life, you remembered, but you were kind of like, screw this, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm going to do what I need to do. So I'm going to look out for myself. Something happened in Orion, and something happened that was so emotional that it caused you to flip, and I think it was a death of a friend, a really close friend. Actually, I think it was the lady that you're connected with. She was originally a Pleiadian, and she was also part of she was also a member of your starship, okay? And you two had kind of a romantic connection, and she got killed. You were so furious that you just decided, why am I doing this? This doesn't really mean anything. It wasn't anything that you decided consciously, but I think, when you were in between lives, you decided to have a really different experience in the Pleiades. So you became a rogue Pleiadian.
To give you some info or some background, I've always been into, like the whole Star Wars scene, as well as the planes and a lot of high-tech stuff that I wanted to build, as well as the sea. I was always into the sea, or wanting to be traveling in the sea as a pirate almost. Like I was always
interesting.
into pirates. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you connect with the pirate theme too. Okay, that's good. So
there's a lot of stuff that I connect to. Like everything you're mentioning is just things that I do even now.
Yeah,
I research things and I can put two and two together.
Yeah.
There's a lot,
Yeah, and you have a very interesting soul path. You didn't have like the typical Pleiadian path that was all love and light, your soul's journey is really interesting, and that's why I was kind of looking forward to doing this reading with you, because I had a feeling it was going to be, we're going to look at some really interesting things in your records, but yeah, the gal that you I guess saw as your queen in this life was your Pleiadian, counterpart, and she got killed by some reptilians. And I think you just, like, as a soul, felt this deep apathy and this deep anger. But she ended up reincarnating too, and I'm seeing that you met up with her again, and for whatever reason, she decided to reincarnate in Orion, okay, as an Orion being. So you encountered her again in the next life when you were the rogue Pleiadian. And there she was of the dark, but she was like the dark of the highest order, okay? I'm seeing that she was like some sort of Orion priestess, or there was some sort of she was in some sort of elevated role, okay?
I can tell you this much. She is a priestess even now.
Oh, okay.
She just doesn't know it.
Yeah.
She's kind of confused about herself.
Yeah, gotcha. So she, and I don't doubt that at all, because it was like she was powerful as a Pleiadian, but when she incarnated as Orion, she became even more powerful. So she actually embodies like the Kali. I don't know if you're familiar with the Indian gods, but Kali, yeah, she's the.
It's interesting you should mention her.
Yeah.
Kali I had a dream once where I met Kali. She was headless at first, but she was naked in like an Indian sitting form in the middle of the air, and I was staring at her because I didn't understand what was going on, and I was curious about the situation. She looked and said, "Don't stare," because she thought I was staring at her naked body.
Right, gotcha. Yeah.
Her body, and that wasn't the case. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, her head popped up, and it was she was bald, right? Mm-hmm. But like a very beautiful Egyptian kind of way, bald, And I still don't understand what that dream was about, because it was a 3-section type dream where all the little things the little symbols you see in Kali's normal pictures, where the heads, the rolling heads, the blood, the war, the knives and things like that was all in my dream, almost like she was testing me before she actually met me. So I still don't understand what that is.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I think I understand what's going on. Your counterpart, when she incarnated into her Orion, I guess, incarnation, took on that Kali energy. Okay, so she became the destroyer. Okay, and I think you were just really attracted to her because she represented the highest order of divine feminine, but divine feminine of the dark. Okay, so there was like a mystique about her, and I think you kind of recognized that you had the soul connection with her. I'm seeing that for whatever reason you met her, okay, on Orion. I think she contracted with the space pirates to obtain certain items that she needed, because she was kind of like a warrior priestess. So she had an army of her own, okay, and so she was looking for certain weapons, and so she was contracting with your Orion space pirate group to obtain these weapons for her. And just like you did in your previous life when you were working for the Federation, you rose up the ranks in the pirate, unit, so you became a commander of the pirate ship, and for lack of a better term, I guess. But so she was, mainly interacting with you, okay? And I do see there was a very deep sexual connection there. I think you two, had a relationship, in that life. And I think that on some level you knew that she was actually your Pleiadian counterpart in the previous life, but you kind of, I think, found her even more fascinating as this dark being, and she was very beautiful in that life too. She was, and I'm seeing that she actually, I think in the Pleiadian life, she had really light blonde hair and was fair skinned. But in that life, it was like she inhabited kind of similar features, but totally different coloring. So she had darker hair, and she had, I think she was more like, had skin like African, like kind of a golden African American, not really deep dark, but, kind of like a golden skin tone, so.
Like caramel, almost how a Puerto Rican would look.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so
she's actually got the similar look now.
Oh, so. Does she? Okay. So
that's part of the reason what grabbed me with her is I can recognize her almost instantly.
Yeah. So I think she may even look the same now as she did when she was in Orion. Okay, so So you just found her like really fascinating, and I'm seeing kind of a karmic interplay between you and this person. I think in some ways your contract with each other was to go through the dark together, okay? And you did, you know. But then it was almost as if there was karmic repercussions for her, because I think she kind of encouraged a lot of your badness, you know, in that life when you were the pirate. And I think because she had to make retribution. So I think in this life, her role was not to be like a long-term partner, but it was to activate you to get you back on the right path that you were meant to be all along. Okay. She kind of felt responsible because it was her death that caused you to go rogue, so to speak, in that, Orion War life. And then you and she, reveled in your badness together, and you guys did some bad things, I mean, I'm seeing some things and it's like, okay, yeah, they did some really bad things, so, I mean, it was slavery, and I mean, you weren't just processing and selling weapons. You were also processing and selling people. Okay, so there was a lot of human trafficking going on too, as well. So there was
things that I'm against now, like
yeah.
on a whole other level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think that's why you find it so disgusting now, because you actually was involved with that stuff, in that life. Because she kind of encouraged your badness. As a rogue Pleiadian, you were ostracized from the Pleiades, okay? They weren't allowing you to come back, because you were like considered to be a traitor. So I'm seeing that her path in this life, or her contract with you, was to get you back on your original path, which is to go back towards the light. I'm seeing that she's struggling going back to the light herself. Okay, do you get that as well?
Yes, I do, and I'm like, I want to help her, but she unknowingly asks for more from me than I'm able to give without feeling for her. Because I can't stop that attachment.
Right.
Like I told you earlier, like the angels told me that I need to get over her. But part of me is still feeling for her. Regardless of what I do, I can't get over that feeling. I'm slowly but surely able to handle it more and more over time. But it's like it's always going to be there. Like it can always spark to become something bigger if given the opportunity or the chance.
Right.
So I'm helping her when I can, talking to her every now and then. But I understand that there are a lot of things between us that don't deal necessarily with this life, that are being caused by past lives, that is causing our mistakes in this life and causing kind of a rift between us. Not because I'm building that rift, because I thought I was.
Yeah.
In reality, she was creating that rift.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
The very beginning.
Yeah. And I am seeing that she's creating that rift on purpose, because she still, I think, isn't ready to go back to the light, but she knows you are, and she doesn't want to stand in your way. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, it does.
yeah, I mean, I know it's hard to hear that, but I think she's trying to do what she thinks is best for you. So she's kind of pushing you away, in a way. I mean, she needs you, but then she pushes you away, and then she needs you, and then she pushes you away. It's kind of.
That's exactly what she does, and it's like I can't take that. It's too much for me.
Yeah.
Especially with the way it kind of. I've had especially more now in this life. I've had way too many things push and pull me.
I'm seeing some of it is within your control, but yeah, but I think also there might be some Orion. I think we saw that last time in the clearing. There was some discordant energies that were tripping you up, so all that should be cleared now. So there shouldn't be anything. So the only thing that's holding you back now would possibly be you, So
It's me.
Yeah, it is. So
it's me at this point.
Yeah, so it's all on you, and I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just trying to be honest. The entities are gone. And I think this woman, she kind of fascinates me a little bit because I see her soul and there's a goodness within her soul, but she has like this crusty dark layer that's around her. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like you're constantly trying to chip away at the dark to get to the goodness that's inside of her, but then she puts up more layers. It's just like, I don't know. She's kind of an interesting person, and what I'm seeing is I think she wants to go to the light, but she's not quite ready yet. Okay, and I don't even know if she's going to be. And maybe that's why your guides are telling you kind of to not put your hope in her too much, because I think your guides realize that probabilities of her really, I think, making a dramatic change in this lifetime is probably not very high. So I think she came to do what she did, and I think she was activating you. She was getting you back on the right track, because I think if you hadn't met her, you wouldn't have gone into this self-exploration journey that led you to have this Akashic reading. So everything kind of falls. There's kind of like a domino effect. Everything kind of has to fall in a certain way to get us to move towards a certain direction. But in a lot of ways, I think because you had this encounter with her in this life, she activated quite a few soul memories for you. And that's what you needed, to, I think, bring... It's kind of like you were this really well integrated soul, then you became kind of fragmented, and now in this life you're being tasked to bring those fragments back together. And part of my goal with this Akashic reading is to help you do that. But I think you're already, you've already started the process. I'm just kind of filling in the gaps for you. So you're already a powerful being. You're extremely powerful. You had some amazing experiences, throughout your past lives. And we haven't even gotten to your Earth lives yet. What I'm trying to do is help you get those puzzle pieces together. You can become what I call a well-integrated Pleiadian soul again, and do all the magnificent things that you want to do with no hang-ups, okay, with nothing that's going to hold you back. You're going to become a very, very powerful manifester. I think you struggle with manifestation now, but you're a powerful Pleiadian being. I mean, there is no reason why you can't manifest everything that your heart wants, and manifest, the good works that you want to do. And I know, I don't know exactly what it is you have planned for yourself, but I know part of that is being of great service to others. I think that's always been, a heart's desire for yours, okay? Is to help other people. And I think, you've had kind of a difficult journey even in this life, and I think you still have some struggles now, but I see a lot of that shifting and changing, okay? It's going to shift and change because you're shifting and changing. It all starts from within. It kind of goes from within out. So let me see. I think after that dark life you had on Orion, because you were kicked out of the Pleiades, you had Orion lives after that, okay? And I think in some of them you were connected to this woman, and others of them you weren't. And so I'm seeing that you had lifetimes where you were, a draconian or a reptilian. Some lives where I think you were tall gray. It was like you ran the gamut. And it was like you were like really going on the dark side, okay? But I think after a while you got tired of it. You saw that the separation you felt from Source was not worth delving into the dark. It was the deep loneliness that you feel sometimes, is you felt that even more when you were in those Orion lives. It was like, I think you missed the camaraderie when you were in the Federation. You missed the friends you used to have. You missed the Pleiadian life where you came from. And you said, damn, this really sucks. What do I need to do to turn things around? So you had a meeting with your guides, okay? This was in between lives. And I think you probably met with some Arcturians too, because this is probably was happening when you were at the Arcturus gate. But, your guides said, okay, you want to make retribution? Okay, you're going to have to take on a really tough assignment and do as much good as you can possible at this new place. And you said, as long as it's not Orion, I'll go anywhere. And they said, well, it's planet Earth. And your heart just sank because you knew you knew it was going to be worse than Orion. So you're like, okay, I got these nasty reptilians I dealt with in Orion, and now I got to go to Earth where they got really ignorant humans. I mean we're talking about some ignorant people. So you were just like, oh my gosh, okay. And they said, no, you got to go to Earth. So you agreed to it. And so you volunteered to be here, just like I did and everybody else did. But the reason why you came here to Earth is because this was your pathway back into redeeming yourself and getting yourself to be able to go back to the Pleiades, okay? Because right now you're kind of a persona non grata in the Pleiades. And I think the Pleiadians still love you. I think they hold you in light and love, but until you worked out your karmic issues, they couldn't allow you to go back there, so you had to go through this journey on Earth. I'm not seeing you had a bunch of incarnations on Earth, but the ones you had, I think were challenging, but they were challenging in different ways. So I'm definitely seeing, let's see, I'm seeing an Atlantean lifetime for sure. In that lifetime, I think you were part of the Atlantean Navy. Okay, so I'm seeing that you had a military role, but it was, I think, okay at first, but then when Atlantis fell, it became very difficult because you saw everything that you were connected to fall away, kind of like you did when you left the Pleiades. So Atlantis was hard. It was heartbreaking. You ended up incarnating in Egypt after that. Okay. Do you feel a connection with Egypt at all, or
yeah? I've always felt a connection with Egypt. In fact, there's three big connections that I have: the medieval times, more so as a dragon as well as a king. Atlantis was definitely one of them when I was a kid. That I was I was even constantly researching the Bermuda Triangle, which is where I believe is where Atlantis was, but I'm not sure. And also Egypt. When it came down to Egypt, all of the pyramids, I was not interested in the pyramids that much. I was more interested in the lifestyle and the style of the Egyptians.
Yeah.
It was almost like very classy, yet very, they couldn't be messed with type people.
Yeah.
Like, they were very powerful, not just spiritually speaking, but mentally, emotionally. They were just, they screamed strength about them, at least when they were at their prime before the
Rome.
Draconians came in and destroyed them.
Yeah, the Draconians and the Romans. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, the Romans as well. Let's not forget about that. But I think the Draconians made the Roman thing possible.
Yeah, they did. The Romans weren't really connected with the reptilians. It was just kind of the corruption within the Egyptian dynasties that were occurring in the latter part of Egyptian history that caused the collapse. Otherwise, Rome would have never been able to take over them, if they were still and they aligned as spiritually as they were in the beginning. So yeah, it was, and I think in that Egyptian life, I think you weren't really interested in the pyramids because you didn't have any involvement with them. Okay, it was so I don't see you as being a builder or an architect. I think you were on the spiritual path. I think you were trying to do the right thing, in your lives, and so I think you were a priest, and I'm seeing that I think you were a priest of Anubis, they're saying. Okay, so he's the jackal-headed god.
I was interested in Anubis.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's good or bad.
He's
always been my thing.
He's actually he's not bad. He's just dark, okay? Because he's the god of the underworld. But to the Egyptians, the underworld was not a bad thing. It was so Anubis was actually helping souls to transition, to the afterlife. So in a lot of ways, even though he was a dark god, he was just as important as, Osiris and Isis. So his cult was just as important. And I think you chose Anubis because I think you related to that transformational aspect of transitioning, okay? That was something that you were always deeply interested in as a soul. So I think you became, very, very interested in the deep mysteries of the nether realms, okay? And like I said, it wasn't like hell. It was considered to be a transitionary point to take souls to the next life, okay? So it was actually quite an elevated cult to be involved with. I think you always picked positions of leadership. I see that throughout your lifetimes because you were a leader in the Pleiades and you were a leader even in your lives in Orion. So, some of my star seeds take very humble roles. They live very, very humble lives. With you, I think you always kind of took on some form of leadership because I think you felt like you could do the most good. And also those are your natural abilities as well. So I think you were stepping into your natural abilities because you are a leader. I see that. I mean, I see that in your energy field. You're meant to do great things even in this lifetime. Okay, I don't think you've stepped into that yet, but you will be. But even in your past lives on Earth, I'm seeing that you always had some person that was king or maybe a priest or you were a commander of the Atlantean army. I mean, you were always in those kind of roles. And so there's a little bit of maybe you, I think, came here to, I think, redeem, not only to redeem yourself but to reestablish the divine masculine that's within you. So the Pleiades is kind of a well-balanced society. Okay, they have both masculine and feminine energies within their society. Because you went on this really dark path for a while, you had these, incarnations where you were doing terrible things in Orion. It was like you had to get back in touch with your divine masculine qualities. So those would be qualities of leadership, of protectiveness, of being a champion for the people that need support, the marginalized, to have integrity, to be honest, those types of qualities. Okay, all those qualities are within you right now. They've always been within you. Yes, even when you had your dark days, but because you were on this redemption path, it took you several lifetimes, okay, on Earth to accomplish this. This lifetime right now is your apex lifetime, okay? This is where I think things are going to start shifting. You're kind of on a bell curve right now, and you're kind of at the lowest point, okay? But this life is you're going to have a trajectory back up from this life, okay? So, and you're going to start going up even in this life. You're not going to have the struggles that you've had in your Earth lives, because your guides are telling me that it's time for you to move and step into who you truly are and start moving up as a soul. Thing I'm seeing as far as let's see if there's any other past lives that jump out at me. I'm seeing like a South American medicine man. Okay, that's interesting. I don't really see much healer energy in you, maybe not on a physical level, but I think what you were doing in that lifetime is you were assisting people in shifting consciousness through light activation. You resonate so much with that type of highest level spiritual knowledge. It was because in that lifetime you were on the shamanic path, okay, and you were assisting others also on a high level shamanic path. So this wasn't just, doing vision quests, okay? This was actually integrating the high level energies from the great central sun coming in through our sun and activating the solar plexus of our chakra systems, okay? So you were kind of a master at that in that lifetime. So there was times in that lifetime that you would go on these interdimensional journeys, where you would be in these different dimensions and then come back and go off on another journey and then come back. So maybe in this life, I think another gift you have is astral travel. Okay, so I think you do.
I definitely do have that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm also, I have this feeling in me that tells me I already know how to heal, even my own body as well as others. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's almost like when it comes down to the spiritual side of things, all those abilities, all I need to do is just feel it once, and then it'll just sprout up from there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think even in your dark lives, you learn some of the deep mysteries. So I think maybe that makes you a little different than most of my other Pleiadian star seeds, is that you're able to you faced your shadow self. I mean, you know what your shadow self looks like, and so you're able to integrate really well the dark with the light. It doesn't mean that you're going to be working for the dark. It just means you're integrating that, so you're becoming a more of a well-balanced soul. But I think because of that, you spent so many lives in darkness, it's made you even more powerful. Okay, so it makes you an even more powerful light worker. Let's put it that way. So, because you've seen both sides of the coin, so to speak. So let me see. I do see Middle Ages Europe. I do see a king of some, but you were a king of a smaller tribe, so you weren't like one of the more well-known kings. But I'm seeing that life was hard because you were constantly trying to keep invaders from taking over your country. Okay, so and these were invaders that were coming from the south and from the north. And I'm seeing you're kind of like a part of Europe you were in at the time was maybe northern Germany or Belgium, or someplace that was kind of vulnerable area, let's put it that way. So you were in a vulnerable area, so you were getting, and so you had struggles, but I think your intentions were always good. You always wanted to take care of your people. You always put your people first. So you were actually a very good king, unlike a lot of kings during that time. But you were struggling with, building an army and, maintaining an army and maintaining your boundaries and maintaining the fortresses. So that was a really stressful life. Now the dragon thing, I'm seeing that I think dragon thing was more of a contract. Okay, so I think because you struggled so much in that life, you made contracts with reptilian beings. Okay, but they were of the dragon sect, not of the. And I think you had like a blood brother pact with these dragon entities. So what I'm seeing is you shape-shifted into dragon because you exchanged blood and DNA. So it was an experience in that life, but it wasn't like you had a whole lifetime as a dragon. But I think you have that memory because it was kind of mind-blowing. I mean, to shape-shift into something magnificent like that.
I feel like a part of me still feels like it can, because I don't know what it is. I felt that way since I was a kid too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't understand. It's almost like I've learned, because of that experience, I learned how to do it for myself. Almost.
Yeah, gotcha. I think the connection with the dragon, gave you a lot more protection, and that's why you did it. So you did it actually to, I think, not because you wanted to gain power and notoriety for yourself, but it was to help your people. And maybe you had to do that because it was again, it was that integration of dark with light. Okay, I think that's kind of been the theme throughout a lot of your lives, especially the ones here on Earth. Trying to see if there was any incarnations that stand out. I'm seeing one in the Middle East, and I think it was maybe during the time of Muhammad, but I'm seeing in that life again. I think you were a merchant in that life, but you were a very wealthy one. You had, I think, you owned. You owned quite a bit of land. I'm seeing that you had quite a few wives in that life. Well, not lives, but you had wives, and you had a lot of people working for you. Kind of a scholar also, so you were always studying, deep spiritual texts during that life, and you always wanted to help others. So I think, you were, somebody that established, maybe some charities or something to help people that were less fortunate, which was kind of unheard of, for people of your station to do that. But you really, I think, embraced, the teachings of Muhammad, because, some of the Islamic teachings are actually quite good. Not all of them are negative. I think there was just radical groups in Islam that have, taken the teachings of Muhammad and took it to the extreme, but I think, you wanted to do good, and you made an impact on a lot of people in a positive way. You were still a 3D person, and I'm seeing a lot of sexual stuff going on in that lifetime too. And it was kind of expected for a man of your station to do that. Yeah, in this lifetime, and I'm seeing other lives too, but I'm seeing in this lifetime, I think your mission is not only to integrate more of this. I think you have actually already integrated the light with the dark. So that's not even. I think that was a mission, but you've accomplished that. Now your mission is to tie up the loose ends so that you can move forward and be a powerful light worker. Because I see you having an impact on a lot of people. I see you doing, I think, a lot of work with people like yourself that are trying to get out of 3D. You're going to be like a way shower of sorts so I see you doing a lot of spiritual coaching. I see you healing people on an energetic level. I see you being a motivational speaker, okay? And I don't know if that's something you consider doing, but I do see that in your records.
No, I have considered doing that.
Your role here on Earth is just beginning, okay? It's just beginning right now. I think you had to go through all this dark stuff to understand the depth of human suffering, okay? And you've seen it. You've seen it not just in this life, but in your previous Earth lives, just how things were so bad here. I'm seeing you, you're absolutely right. I think what makes Earth worse is all the deception and all the secrecy, okay? Yeah, your assessment of Orion was right on. At least the people there knew who their enemies here were in that life, those lives. And on Earth, we don't know who our enemies are. The government is our enemy. The church is our enemy. But they pretend to be our friends. You know what I'm saying? They pretend to be looking out for our best interests, while spraying us with chemtrails and filling our minds with garbage, and filling our bodies with garbage, because we're exposed to so much toxicity right now on this planet, both physically and spiritually and emotionally, okay? That humans are being beat up. Humans right now are being beat up, and that's why I do the work that I do, because I'm trying to get all you starseeds remembering who you are so that we can fight back, because unless we remember who we are, we're not going to be able to do anything. So that's why, I'm hoping that my message gets out there too, and that you're able to, resolve, some of these 3D issues of your life, so that you can really step into what you're here to do. I think you are here to break down old systems, the old draconian systems, okay, where people are enslaved, okay? And so that is your role. Yeah, that's your role here. And it's a very, very important one. It's a very, very difficult one, okay? You're going to have a lot of courage to step into that, but I know you have the courage because you're a spiritual warrior.